All right, what's going on, everybody? So everyone's been kind of doing a review of this show, and I kind of feel I should also. One, because it is Cartoon Network Adult Swim related. It is airing on Adult Swim, and second of all, I do feel very passionate about this because I'm a big Superman fan. Like, I really love the character. I really appreciate the history of the character and everything. So I wanted to do a video reviewing this. I did watch both episodes that are currently out right now on Max, and I didn't like them. I didn't like them. I liked some things. I thought that their depiction of Superman, the little of it that there is in these two episodes, but the depiction of Superman was good. But how Superman comes about, how they show him using his powers, how I have a problem with all of that. I get that this show is supposed to be anime inspired. I get that. But I think that it's a little too much. I think it's a little too anime inspired. Down to the point where Clark has a literal Sailor Moon magical girl transformation into his Superman suit. Now, granted that only happens a total of once, but that's how he gets his suit. It's not like it's given to him. It's not like he finds it in his ship that was shipped off, in the ship that Jor-El sent him in. He goes to go visit Jor-El, and he just his eyes start glowing, and he just transforms into the suit. It's really weird. Also, how that even happens, by the way, is crazy to me. So let me go to the beginning. So Clark, when the show first starts, by the way, I'm already a bit kind of thrown off. Because we see Clark at the beginning of the show. He's kind of like a preteen. He's kind of like still getting his footing, still kind of getting in, still kind of, again, like learning his powers. But as a preteen, like that's the first time he sees himself learning his powers. At least from what I can see, he looks like a preteen. In my opinion, I think that that's too old for him, because like that's not how Superman's powers work. It's not like they're just activated at a certain age, right? That's just not how they work. His powers are given to him from the sun, right? So the fact that he's only just now learning he's got super speed, superhuman strength, flight when he's like 10, I feel like is a bit weird. Also, even if that's the narrative that they want to go with, even if like, okay, he doesn't start realizing he has powers until he's 10 or 13. Okay, fine. Well, we immediately fast forward to when he's an adult, right? So we're talking at least like a 10-year time gap. Why do we see a Clark, who again is now an adult, why do we see him still struggling with having his powers under control? Like, the very first scene we see adult Clark Kent is when he wakes up, right? And he has to turn off his alarm, and he breaks it. Like, okay, they wanted to do that one joke for the gag, like, oh, he just was sleep deprived, he had just woke up, he tried to turn off his alarm, forgot to control his powers, and he broke it. Okay. Well, he goes to go to the bathroom sink to wash his face and whatever, breaks the faucet off. Then he goes to go put on his shoes, literally rips his shoe in half. We're talking about a Superman who we see got his powers first figured out he had powers 10 years ago, and he's still struggling with his strength? Like, he still doesn't have that under control? Like, if this was still week 1, like, yeah, okay, I get it, yeah, that's funny, that's a good gag, but how am I, as an audience watcher, supposed to believe, like, really? You've had your powers and known about your powers and have been trying to get used to your powers for, again, bare minimum, 10 years and you're still not used to them yet? You still haven't gotten used to your powers yet? It's weird to me, right? And then when we do see Superman try to use his powers, like, here's the thing about Superman, is so long as that sun is in the air, he can move fast, he can lift strong, he can heat vision, right? He can just do it. Why is it that when we start, we see like a activation, like when he needs to move fast, his eyes start to glow blue. He starts to get this electricity aura. There's even a scene where you see the electricity aura form like the S on his chest when he's getting ready to do hyperspeed. Like, what is this? Like, it's like, I don't like it. It's not. That's not how Superman's powers work. They don't activate. There's no tapping into his powers. Superman just has powers. That's how Superman is. Superman can go from being, zero power Clark Kent and lifting up a tea glass or whatever and setting it down without breaking it or whatever, and he can go from lifting 200 tons like that. He doesn't need to activate anything. It's just how he controls his powers. I had a big problem with that. And again, the other thing I had a problem with is, again, when I was talking about that magical girl transformation sequence and about how he ends up meeting Jor-El and all this stuff, how that actually happens is crazy. Again, so we had seen Clark as a kid, right? Well, we had another flashback to when Clark was a kid at the beginning of episode 2, where we see Clark meet Jor-El for the first time. But obviously he's a little scared. He ends up fleeing the situation, doesn't end up revisiting that, nothing again. Well, now he's an adult. Still doesn't know anything about his powers. Still doesn't really know anything about his past or who he is or any of that. Then he ends up joining the Daily Planet, or the Daily Bugle, and meets up with Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen. Well, Lois Lane tries to use Clark and Jimmy to aid her on her story that she's trying to get done, this investigation that she's trying to do, all this stuff. Well, long story short, they get into a bit of trouble, and Clark has to save the day, but he doesn't have his Superman persona yet. So he just kind of puts a hoodie on and just saves them, right? Well, they see him, and they start dubbing him the Superman, right? And they want Perry White, their boss, to run their story, but he won't run their story until they get a picture of Superman or an interview with Superman, something to prove that he's real. And we see Lois's excitement of, yes, this is all we got to do, we're going to do it. And you see Clark start to blush. Then he goes home and starts talking to Martha Kent. And now, all of a sudden, because he starts talking to her about Lois. Oh, she's great, she's amazing, she's gorgeous, blah, this, and this. Oh, and now, I really need to learn more about myself. I really need to learn where I come from. I really need to... That's what made you do it? That's what made you want to find out more about yourself and where you come from and where your powers are from and how your powers really even work? Is because you want Lois to look good in front of her boss? Dude. Like... I don't know. I didn't quite like that at all. And then when so this is one thing I will give the show that I will say is interesting at the very least, is all of Clark's interactions with his father, Jor-El, are different from anything that I've seen in any Superman project before. Is Jor-El speaking to Clark entirely in Kryptonian. Even when Clark kind of tells him, like, I don't know what it is you're saying, I can't understand you, he still talks in Kryptonian. It's not like he is able to use the language translator, which we've seen that before, like, right? Like, I think I've seen one interpretation where Jor-El begins to speak in Kryptonian, but then once Clark tells him he can't understand him, he uses some language translator modifier that changes his voice so that his words are coming out in English so that Clark can understand. But none of that happens here. He does do like a memory or mind vision thing to Clark. So he's able to get all that type of information across. But so I will say that was interesting. An interesting addition. Deathstroke is in this for some reason. Deathstroke and Amanda Waller are in this. Amanda Waller doesn't make an appearance until the very end. But Deathstroke is in this for some reason, and Deathstroke is really intrigued on who is the Superman and who is this kind of weird out of all the villains, out of all the people. Deathstroke is kind of a bit of an interesting pick. I won't say it's the weirdest one. Definitely just interesting. I'm trying to think what else. One thing I did find weird is when we first heard about this show, My Adventures with Superman, the title alone, first of all, hints that this is not necessarily a show about Superman, but I believe, if I remember correctly, the show was even described as Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane's adventures with Superman. But it's tonally, like if you're watching the episodes, Superman and Clark Kent, they're the main character. They're the main focus, which is fine and it's good, but it's like, how are you going to say that the show is about Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane and their adventures with Superman if Superman is the main character? It's weird, right? That's just, I don't know, that's weird to me. That doesn't make any sense. Because, like, even the end credits is all Jimmy Olsen. Like, it's this anime ending inspired of Jimmy Olsen walking, and his pictures behind him. Like, it's almost like making it look like Jimmy Olsen's the main character, but Jimmy Olsen is total side character in this. Total side character. Which, again, is fine, but it's like, I don't understand why they were kind of advertising this as being, like, Jimmy and Lois's story with Superman, when it's Superman's story with Jimmy and Lois Lane. Yeah, I don't know. And for a show to be so anime inspired, the fight scenes are very low budget, low quality. I'm not a fan of them. I've always known that DC animated films have struggled a bit in the animation department, depending on who their staff is. Like, I was never big on the DeCamu films for their fight scenes. The way that their animation worked in the DeCamu films just was too stiff, in my opinion. But this was just like, y'all know those YouTube channels that have like their own series, their own fan-made series that's anime inspired, and you watch it and you're like, this is not great, but considering the fact that a fan made this is for free on YouTube, you're like, wow, this is not bad. Those fight scenes and those animations are what you get in this show. It's like, you're looking at it and you're like, it's like the weirdest mix of, like, because even when they try to get fluid with the animation and the fight scenes, it's still stiff. It's like, it's weird. It's the weirdest combination. And like, when Superman wants to tap into his speed, like, that's fluid. But once they start doing punches and trying to throw somebody, it's so stiff. It's like they're skipping frames. Like, it's the weirdest style, and it's just, I don't like it. I'm going to keep watching the show, because I want to keep doing reviews of it. The same way I did for Velma. But I'm going to be honest, first 2 episodes, I'm not going to say I don't like the show. I'm not going to say that yet, but I will say that the show has given me a bad impression of what it of its potential. I will say that. It's given me a bad impression. We will see what happens with this. Who knows? Could get better. But from what I'm seeing so far, I don't enjoy it. What did you guys think about it? Did any of you guys watch it? Comment down below. Please let me know. I'm very, very, very intrigued to know what you guys thought of this. I was really excited for this. I really, really was. And after watching the first 2 episodes, I'm just like, I don't enjoy it. So hopefully it gets better. Comment down below. Let's talk about it. And like always, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.